Alright, what's up guys? So today I have a comprehensive Bitcoin update for you guys. I show you the high time frames, I look at price action, I look at some, explain some on-chain indicators that I'm using to try to predict the top. But more importantly, I'm trying to keep it simple here and show you the most important levels that I'm watching. And today's video is sponsored by crypto.com. You probably already know about them because they're pretty much everywhere. And if you watch the chart, the CRO chart is breaking out heavily and it's looking absolutely fantastic. And you know, it's the only exchange where you're able to trade up to, you know, over 200 pairs with up to 10x leverage. You have over 40 perpetual future contracts, and the most important thing here and the most interesting thing here is newly listed tokens. You will have a 50% up to a 50% discount on newly listed tokens, and if you sign up using the link in the description below, they will give you $50 bonus in CRO, a token that's breaking out. All right, it's a no-brainer, free money, go get it. I want to first look at the MVRV score. It probably hasn't changed much, but you know, I'm looking at this and I'm just using it in my high time frame analysis on Bitcoin, and I'm just trying to make a habit of it to watch it before doing these weekly market updates on Bitcoin, just to get a view of what's happening. So yeah, nothing going on right here. We're not in any interesting area basically. So what I'm watching, you know, is when we start to reach the red area, we have a potential top incoming. And here we have the NUPL on Glassnode. So let's see if this is seeing an increase, and obviously it's not. Can we zoom? Let's see, we zoom maybe 1 month, 6 months. Yeah, so we're not really seeing any major increase in NUPL as well. So now that we got that over with, we'll look at the we're gonna look at the 2-week stochastics RSI, which is you know, moving higher, and it's obviously going to take a few weeks for the stochastics RSI to cross above. I'd say in this case I have it on 70, but I'd say in this case I would like to see it cross above 80 to be overbought. Now it's important to remember here that the stochastics RSI on the 2-week can stay overbought for a very long time, and it's not about, you know, it's not about looking at the stochastics RSI and as soon as the stochastics RSI on a 2-week goes into the overbought territory, you're gonna look for a top. But when the stochastics RSI on a 2-week is going into the overbought territory, as well as the NUPL showing a sign of you know, greed and euphoria, and the C-score is approaching the red area, when you have those 3 things kind of combining, you start looking at the lower time frames to kind of try to see a break in market structure and perhaps a breakdown of the daily 50 EMA. Now combine all of that and you might have a top, because if you look at, I mean if you look at this chart right here, stochastics RSI on a 2-week entered the overbought territory here, and we had a 700, you know, around 750% pump on Bitcoin, which is just obviously insane, right? So going only after 2 weeks stochastic RSI is not a good idea, but combining everything is probably a good idea. Now Bitcoin is a fairly new asset, so you can't really, on the higher time frames, this is not very accurate because it haven't happened many times. You haven't had a lot of high time frame macro top in Bitcoin, so it's very hard to predict, but that's the best I can do, I believe. And that's just the first layer of trying to identify an overbought market, you know, overextended market prior to the top. So that is the first stage, and you look at the lower time frames, right? So that's my high time frame analysis here. So looking at the weekly for Bitcoin, I do really like how we're looking on the weekly. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of you are watching the rather choppy price action on the lower time frames, right? But it's really easy to get carried away looking at, and also I just want to note, a lot of people ask me about the weekly stochastics, right? And they're like, aren't you worried that the weekly stochastics is in the overbought territory? And I'm not at all, because if you see here, weekly stochastics was very much overbought here, and then boom, on this move, it actually went down into the the oversold territory. So it's you can't just use the high time frame stochastics RSI as some type of indicator on its own. You need to combine it with other stuff, and price action and market structure always prevail. In this case, if the market structure and price action is bullish, it doesn't really matter where the stochastics RSI is, honestly, because it can stay overbought and oversold for such a very long time in bear markets and bull markets and all that. So not really interested in that. What I am interested, though, however, what I'm interested in is this level right here. I think it's a very, very good looking level, and we have obviously I do think it makes perfect sense to use the candle closes here to draw this weekly level. It's just beautiful. Look at how nicely it has reclaimed this level right here. So on the weekly, I think Bitcoin is looking absolutely fantastic, right? You could potentially incorporate the candle closes. You could potentially incorporate the candle closes here to the right, which makes the zone a little bit bigger, but it's still looking very good, right? It's still looking very good. You have that weekly wick taking out the whole zone here, so it's looking very, very good. Let's see where we have the weekly moving averages. So we have the the weekly 20 EMA is obviously very important EMA in a bull market. So I like the fact that the 20 EMA is actually in a fairly good area. So you probably know that I've been looking at this level for quite some time, and the reason for that is also, if you add the fibs here, you will see that it's in such a perfect area right here, right? So you have the area between the 0.618 and the 50% fib is not only confluent with a very significant support and resistance area and a major breakout area, but you also have the weekly 20 EMA. So even if we do get a minor correction, and I do think that a move lower to this level would be a minor correction. If we do get a minor correction from Bitcoin, and we're talking about a potential 15 to 20% drop to the downside, and yes, I do think that is, considering the market structure, is a minor correction. A major correction would be like 50%, right? But in a 50% major correction on Bitcoin, is still not a bear market. I mean, you look at this right here, 56% correction. Obviously not a bear market. That was just from distribution to accumulation, and then we just continue the upwards, right? So in a bear market, you're gonna get like 80, maybe 70, 80, maybe even 90% corrections, right? So that's the major bear market corrections, right? So yeah, if we do break this upper area that we're trading in right now, which is the let's call it the area between 60k, around 60k on the high time frames, right? If we fail to hold this this area, we are most likely going to see a 15 to 20% drop to the downside to hit the 50% fib or the 618, and if the 20 EMA is slowly but surely coming into this area, it's definitely adding a lot of confidence to this area. So that's my views on the weekly. I am bullish on the weekly. It looks very, very good, especially if the weekly candle can close above, let's say, 61.5. So if the weekly candle can close above this zone right here, I'm much more bullish than I'm already am. But then if we lose this area, I do think that we're going to see a move down to the anywhere between 54k and 50k. And still bullish. Bitcoin would be still very, very bullish in that case. Now let's look at the daily. All right, let's look at the daily. I'm gonna keep this level on. I'm gonna remove that one, but I'm gonna keep this on, but I'm gonna adjust it just a little bit, so make it a little bit tighter. I think this makes more sense, and I'm basing this on the fact that it makes more sense according to the price action to the left, maybe not as much to the right, but market is very choppy in this current market structure that we're seeing right here. But I like the fact that it's tapping into this supply zone right here, and supply and demand zone, so SR level, right? So yeah, okay, so adding the daily 20 and 50 EMA, we are seeing something interesting right here. We're seeing price holding the 20 EMA on the daily quite nicely, right? But it keeps hitting it over and over again. Stochastics RSI has bottom out here on the daily, and there's definitely a lot of room to the upside. Now, watching the daily 50 EMA right here, I'm pretty sure that the daily 50, and you can also see that that wick comes down into that horizontal area where we also have the daily 50 EMA right now. So if you add a level, if you add a level here, you will see that it's a pretty decent support area, right? So I do think that, and you can draw it to the left here, you'll see that it's also a decent support area with historic price action to the left. So I do think that this area right here at around 56k will act as minor support, but I would not be surprised to see a major wick down into the 53 or 52, 54k area, right? And if we lose this 56k area with a heavy break to the downside, I will actually start looking for a move down to the weekly 20 EMA. So first, and it kind of goes like this. First we have the daily 20 EMA, lose the daily 20 EMA, and I'm looking towards the 50 EMA on the daily as support. And if we lose the 50 EMA in the daily, let's add the 100. Yes, you can see the 100 is right now right in between here, very close to the weekly 20 EMA. So if you lose the daily 50 EMA, I will be looking at an area around the weekly 20 EMA, which should be around 51.5k or something like that. Right, so that's the daily. Now let's go into the 4 hour and look more closely at the current range that we're trading inside. So as you can see here, as soon as I go into the 4 hour, you start seeing a much more choppy market structure, where we did have a nice trend right here. We broke the trend here, and we're now in some type of range, right? So I would just say we're in a range, and it would be best to, it would probably be best here to let Bitcoin kind of break this range, you know, before we make any major decision. So for example, if you want to go long in altcoins, you should wait probably for Bitcoin to, you know, bounce down here, perhaps bounce here and start moving higher, you know. So bounce here and probably break the range highs to the upside. That would be very good opportunity to probably go long in altcoins if altcoins are looking bullish and perhaps wants to follow Bitcoin upwards, right? if Bitcoin is bouncing here and breaking out while all coins are showing a bearish market structure and actual dumping, maybe that is when you should increase exposure to Bitcoin, because maybe that is when the BTC dominance will rise with Bitcoin rising and all coins will fall, because it's, you know, Bitcoin is basically sucking out a lot of money out of the Bitcoin market. Break range low, we got the daily 50 EMA, break the daily 50 EMA, and we have the weekly 20 EMA somewhere around that area right there. So that's what I'm looking at on Bitcoin right now. We can look at the 1 hour, but it's not really, I mean, it's not really going to tell us much. The price action here looks pretty shitty. Very hard to trade this range. It's just a lot of wicks all over the place. High leverage traders will get stopped out. So stick to spot trading if you want to trade Bitcoin here. Definitely. So that's what I'm looking at. So what do we want to see in the next couple of hours or over the course of today or maybe tomorrow to kind of make a decision on Bitcoin here? So, all right. So like I said, we have the range EQ area right here at around, where is it? 61.5. So if we can get around the bottom here on the 4 hour, while we see stochastic bull cross below 30, we might, I mean, there might be a trade opportunity to go long here with stop loss here and take profit here, but I mean, come on, it's just the risk to reward on that trade setup is bad, and then consider the fact that the range is very choppy, kind of adds risk to that setup. But a run, like, you could play this perhaps on altcoins, right? You could perhaps play this on altcoins. If you see around the bottom here, stochastic bull cross below 30, Bitcoin starts moving higher and all coins are showing a bullish market structure, you might want to try a trade on an altcoin that is showing a much better risk to reward, because it could be the fact that Bitcoin breaks out and that altcoin breaks out even further, and you might hit TP1 and TP2, but then if Bitcoin continues higher, you're going to get stopped out at entry perhaps on that altcoin trade, but you will be in profit because you've taken profit at TP1 and TP2, and then maybe take that profit in that position and switch it into Bitcoin if you see that the BTC dominance is rising heavily. So before we end the video, we'll take a look at the BTC dominance, and you see here that I've talked about how all coins would be risk off in this area and risk on below this area, and that's exactly what we got right here. We broke the 44 level, like I talked about a couple of days ago, broke that level to the downside, had a bearish reaction, and this is obviously what we're seeing in the crypto market right now. All coins are, especially, you know, you have lately you've seen Ethereum moving very, very nicely. I think Ethereum is a big part of that. You see BNB is very, very nice. So you have a few large cap altcoins that are really sucking a lot of money out of the market, and that is why you see the BTC dominance falling, right? But the BTC dominance is now approaching a major support area, which is the, let's say, the 52.5 to 53 area as support. And I do expect that, you know, if the BTC dominance hits this area right here and we get a bounce with a breakout on Bitcoin, it's probably going to suck a lot of money out of the altcoin market. But we can't really predict that, because we can't really predict what the BTC dominance is doing, because the BTC dominance chart is only reacting to what's happening in the market. So we can just observe and trade whatever happening at this moment. All right, guys, that's a rather comprehensive overview of Bitcoin, kind of giving you my thoughts on what I'm watching. Hopefully you like this video right here. And yeah, have a great Thursday, everyone. And if you have any questions, let me know.